This is James the Third, Jim Maloney. Tim Maloney, the Timoth, Tim May, gone by many monikers. Don't know exactly what I'm doing yet for this channel, but we'll figure it out. Tim Jim, I guess, is what I did last time. I think I might have mentioned this in the last video, but tried to change the name to Tim Jim. I did a search and there were 31 Tim Jim channels already in existence. So the channel name might change. But anyway, as you, I assume, saw on the title for this video, we're talking about some Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker. I'll have some fish videos coming up too, but doing a little something different today. I've been wanting to start a channel which talks about Star Wars for 2 years. 2 years ago, I had a theory that Rey, before The Last Jedi, I thought the Last Jedi was going to show that Rey was a clone of Luke Skywalker's hand because of J.J. Abrams was originally going to have a opening scene in The Force Awakens where Luke's hand was floating through space with a lightsaber. Kylo Ren talks about cloning. I just felt that it made Rey Luke's kid without having a mother, having to answer that. No Mara Jade. They didn't have to touch that at all. George Lucas famously hated Mara Jade. You're going against the idea that Jedi should have wives and all that stuff. So it kind of solved all the problems and yet still made Rey a Skywalker, which I believe she has to be in order for the sequel trilogy to make any sense at all, since she's the main character in the Skywalker saga. So, but anyway, that's a digression. I never made that video or that channel, and now one of the most prevalent theories online is that theory exactly. I had it by 2 years. I only made a few comments in Facebook groups and YouTube channels, which I'm not going to track down to prove. You can believe me or you don't. I don't really care. But anyway, The Rise of Skywalker. The trailer looked amazing. That flip in the beginning was. It's exactly what I want. I want some flippy Jedi again. I used to hate the prequels. I kind of grown to appreciate them now because I want more Jedi, more Force. The Disney Star Wars, not enough Force and not enough Jedi. But anyway, so The Rise of Skywalker. It could go back to that. Maybe that theory's true. She's a clone. Maybe she's also still Luke's kid or something like that, which I hope. I don't think it's dumb. But I believe the real story of this is going to be about we're gonna come full circle. That's why the Emperor's come back. We're gonna go full circle and go back to how the Skywalkers began, because the main problem the sequel trilogy has right now is that it's not, in my opinion, connecting very well to the other trilogies. It's the Skywalker saga. It feels a little disconnected. It was recently came out, I believe, in an interview. They said the Palpatine return was always a plan, even back to the George Lucas days. Now, I actually believe this is true, and I believe this now. This is not something I predicted before, but in the novelization of The Force Awakens, there's a voice that pops into Rey's mind that says, "Kill him," when she's fighting, I think when she has Kylo defeated, or at least partially defeated. She has a chance, basically, to kill him, and there's a voice that says, "Kill him." Now, that is an actual quote that the Emperor and or Palpatine has said multiple times throughout the saga. So it doesn't say that it's Palpatine in the novelization, and it's not in the film, but the novelization is based on the original script. So I believe that actually was supposed to be Palpatine, and here's where I'm going to get into theory land big time. Now, it's easy to say now, oh, they're just bringing back Palpatine because, oh, you lost Snoke and Rian Johnson screwed it up. No, I believe that it was always in the plan, And this might be something that was going to have more of a play in episode 8, but there was a reaction. Basically, the reaction to Force Awakens, most people loved the movie, but there was a contingent, a small but vocal minority, that didn't like The Force Awakens because it was quote unquote a rehash of A New Hope. Now, whether or not you believe that, which I don't believe so, I think there was a great video made by, I wish I could remember the YouTuber, where he shows that Force Awakens was actually a remake of the entire original trilogy. And the reason why it seems like it's just A New Hope is because Return of the Jedi in itself is a rehash of A New Hope. And I've said that since I was little. I never liked the Return of the Jedi as much as the rest, barring the throne room scene's amazing, the space battle's amazing. But I never, like, Return of the Jedi, I never got it. I was like, why did we do a Death Star again? So that is why The Force Awakens seems like a rehash of A New Hope, is because it's a rehash of the entire original trilogy, and 2/3 of that are the same movie. So now you can argue that doesn't give it any better excuse, and maybe I might kind of agree with that. Maybe, but I don't believe it's a rehash of A New Hope at all. I mean, I never thought that at the time. It's not something that, nobody had ever heard of the words Mary Sue or a rehash of A New Hope if we weren't all copying each other online. But that's a story for another video, which maybe someday I'll make. But back to my point. I believe the Palpatine was planned, but in the reaction to The Force Awakens being a rehash of A New Hope, they backed off that and didn't make it as big of a deal. But they still killed Snoke. So now, because the reaction to Last Jedi was, it's too different, they just got to stop listening to idiots online. But I think that was really always in the plan, and they initially backed off it a little bit, and now they're bringing it home, because that is the big problem with that Lucasfilm has with the sequel trilogy, is that they need to connect it more. So The Rise of Skywalker, what it's going to be, in my opinion, is a lot of flashbacks to earlier times. So you're going to have Palpatine back. Now, is Palpatine going to be back in the flesh or a spirit? Maybe even not. It might not even be that he's back in this time frame, or quote unquote this time frame, the sequel time frame, but we might be getting a lot of flashbacks to how the Skywalker story started, which, as we know, in the prequels, Darth Plagueis said that Shmi Skywalker said, I don't know, there was no father, it was just immaculate conception. She didn't use those words, but it's basically an immaculate conception. Now, I was always like, what? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I still don't like it, but they could save it. Now, it was teased by Darth Sidious when he was talking to Anakin, that not from a Jedi. That scene, best scene in the prequels, maybe. That his master, Darth Plagueis, had learned how to manipulate the midichlorians to create life. Now, it has been said that George Lucas was originally going to have it revealed that Darth Plagueis was actually Anakin's father. Now, I believe we're going to get the story of how that happened. I believe it's going to be Darth Sidious learned that from Darth Plagueis, or maybe Darth Plagueis did it himself, and we're going to learn that he, in fact, did start the Skywalkers. So the Rise of Skywalker isn't going to be the return of Luke Skywalker from the dead, isn't necessarily going to be the reveal that Rey Skywalker is going to be, or Rey is going to be a Skywalker, which, God, I hope she is, or else the sequel trilogy makes no sense whatsoever. But that's another video. But it's going to be the story of how the Skywalkers began through this power from Darth Plagueis and Darth Sidious, the rise of Skywalker, the creation of the Skywalker line through Anakin Skywalker, through Shmi Skywalker, through the manipulation of the midichlorians. I do have some evidence of this. Circumstantial at best, but months ago, or possibly even years ago, Matt Smith, I believe his name is, who from Doctor Who, he played the Doctor, which 12th Doctor. I don't remember which Doctor. I don't watch Doctor Who, but that's what he's famous for, mostly, I guess, at this point. He was reportedly cast in this movie. Now, recently he did an interview, and they said, "How is Star Wars? What's the deal with Star Wars?" And he's like, "Am I in that movie?" And apparently had, well, I guess I'm not in that movie. Which might be true. And maybe he's not in that movie. But wouldn't it be interesting if Matt Smith was playing a young Senator Palpatine, Sheev Palpatine, probably even before Senator, a young Sheev Palpatine, Darth Sidious, apprentice to Darth Plagueis the Wise, and then we're going to get the story of the rise of Skywalker, the rise of Anakin Skywalker, the creation of Anakin Skywalker, and it's going to be forcebacks, flashbacks, whatever you want to consider. It's going to be that, and that's going to be the story of Episode 9, the full circle. It'll bring it back. It'll tie it all together. Now, that'd be cool. But that's a whole lot of stuff that has nothing to do with Rey. And she's the main character. That's why, and it really bugs me when I read people say, she can't be a Skywalker. It shouldn't be about bloodline. You're right. The Force, the Jedi, should not be about a bloodline. But this is the Skywalker saga. Like, there's other movies, there's other stories to tell. It's a big universe. Tell all the stories about nobody's coming from it doesn't matter. Like, I'm a big believer in you get what you make of the world. It's not just about a bloodline or who you are. Anybody can do it. They just have to believe and all that. But it's the friggin' Skywalker saga. Rey has to be a friggin' Skywalker. I'm sorry. If I'm right and this becomes about the start of the Skywalkers and all that, it's going to be real hard to make her interesting. It's going to be real hard to justify her existence in this story for 3 movies unless she is a Skywalker, unless she is a clone of Luke Skywalker, unless she has something to do with the Skywalker saga, because I don't care what anybody says. Kylo Ren, Ben Solo, is not the main character and not a Skywalker. I mean, it's not just about the blood. He's not the main character. He's the villain. Yes, Darth Vader was the villain of the original trilogy, but Luke Skywalker was the main character. It's the Skywalker saga. You cannot have the main character of the Skywalker saga not be a Skywalker. Rey has to be a Skywalker, or the sequel trilogy makes no sense whatsoever. And I love the sequel trilogy. I loved Force Awakens. I love The Last Jedi as individual films. The Last Jedi is one of the most beautifully shot films I've ever seen in my life. It's not the Luke Skywalker I would have made, but it's the one that George Lucas made, or would have made, and it's the one that they made, and it's history. That's what it is. I'm glad they didn't make 40 years later Luke Skywalker the same carbon copy as Return of the Jedi. Anyway, Episode 8, Episode 7 as standalone movies are amazing, better than most of the other Star Wars movies. But as a trilogy, as parts 7 and 8 of a 9-part story, it's just not going to fit real well unless they really put this last brick into place in a satisfying way. And to me, unless Rey is a Skywalker, it's not going to make any sense whatsoever. narratively. I mean, I would love Rey to be nobody if this was not a Skywalker story. I'd love a story about a nobody whose parents were junk traders, who you know, like that doesn't, if she's a Skywalker, it doesn't take away any of that. But it's Skywalker Saga, the main character. Anakin, parts 1, 2, 3. Luke, parts 4, 5, 6. Parts 7, 8, 9. Anakin Skywalker, Luke Skywalker, Rey from nowhere. No, that's not how it works. If it's true, the sequel trilogy is a complete failure. It's a complete failure. But anyway, I meant to make that a separate video, and I still might. Maybe I'll cut the ending off, and we will redo that. But anyway, that's my thoughts on the matter. Please like the video, subscribe. I'm real early in my process here, so share it, like it, help me out here. I'll start making more regular videos. I'm going to be making fish reaction videos, Star Wars, maybe some Star Trek. I'm James III from the 5-Year Mission podcast. Maybe I'll pick up that podcast where it left off. Thanks for stopping by, and splash, I guess. I don't know if I'll still do that continuing forward, but anyway. Peace.